Good morning. We will call our meeting of the Tuesday, January 19th, 2021 Commissioners to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our prayer for the morning. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage, that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any changes, discussion? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes. Thank you. Next up on our resolution, Andy Conrad, our county engineer, and standing in for Andy is Dan Becker. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry about the Browns. It stunk.
No.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
not sorry.
No. I watched the whole game.
So we got some resolutions today. The first resolution for your approval would be the resolution for the Medina County engineers to advertise for bids for pavement planing and repair on various county roads. The second resolution is for the county engineer to advertise for bids for chip and seal on various county roads. The third resolution is for Medina County engineers to advertise for bids for MC 3000 single chip and seal on various roads. The fourth resolution is for the Medina County engineers to advertise for bituminous cold mix resurfacing on various county roads. The fifth resolution, is for the approval of plans, specifications, and estimates for new pavement markings on various county roads. And the sixth resolution is for the determination that certain equipment used by the county engineers is in excess and authorizing for its disposal. And then we've also got the weekly permits for the week.
Move to approve the 6 resolutions.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
week.
you, Dan.
Thank you.
You too. And Dan, yeah, to make your boss happy, you can stay if you want, but
Yeah, no, but
I understand. Okay, next up, we have Amy Lyon Galvin, our Assistant County Administrator. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. I have 10 resolutions for your consideration this morning. The first resolution is amending the appropriation measure resolution. The second is amending the 2021 appropriations resolution by transferring appropriations. The third is an expenditure adjustment resolution for various funds. The fourth resolution is a cash transfer for various funds. The fifth resolution is a cash transfer of interest income for various funds. The sixth resolution is accepting an application for the use of a procurement card for the Medina County Clerk of Courts. The seventh is authorizing a contract with the Medina County Health Department for the provision of occupational immunization services for employees of the Medina County Sheriff. The eighth resolution is approval of an agreement for supplemental county courthouse security services. This is an annual agreement. This is for calendar year 2021. The ninth resolution is allowing expenses of the county engineer. This is for the County Engineers Association of Ohio Engineering Conference in Columbus for Andy Conrad. And the 10th resolution is claims for the week in the amount of $655,363.63.
Move to approve the 10 resolutions.
Thank you, Steve.
Second?
Thank you. Colleen, any discussions or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Scott or Amy, I noticed the procurement cards for clerk of courts. Do all the departments have them now who want them or who need them?
We've got a call with PNC today. We've had some difficulty on the back end trying to get the programming to link up to our purchase orders to extract a file that works with Munis. So we're trying to accomplish that last hurdle today. If we're unsuccessful in getting it to recognize the POs, we're gonna go ahead and distribute them anyway. We've got an alternative plan to let the departments begin using them.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes,
Hudson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Amy.
thank you.
Next up, we have Scott Miller, our County Administrator. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. Holly Murin, our Human Resource Director. Sorry, I crossed you off the list before you got here.
That's okay. That's okay. On our personal changes resolution today, we have a new hire in sanitary, a promotion in sanitary, 5 rate increases, 2 in sanitary, 2 in county home, and 1 in HR, a rate correction in sanitary, and 2 leave of absence in sanitary.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second?
Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Holly.
I'll say
Sorry.
congratulations to Jeremy and
Well, thank you very much.
I was gonna do that when you got up here, but, okay, Scott, you're up.
Yeah.
Scott Miller, our County Administrator. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. I have 3 resolutions for you today. The first resolution is authorizing advertisement for bids. This is for lease of the farmland at the county home, Lafayette Township. The second resolution is terminating the Medina County Public Defenders Commission pursuant to ORC 120.13E. This is something that we had discussed last week. And the final resolution is approving a lease agreement with Strand Company for the Wadsworth Auto Title Office space, and that the lease is for 3 years at a monthly rental of $1,263.38.
Thank you, Scott.
Move to approve the 3 resolutions.
second?
Any discussion or questions?
Just, if I may, I want to make a comment regarding the Public Defender's Office. I know we had discussion about it last week. And just wanted to reiterate that there's 40 counties that already rely solely upon a court-appointed counsel. Only 29 have a county public defender office. This would reduce it down to 28. We'll bring up the other one to 41. This is about cost and efficiency, and I think this is a move that needs to be made.
Yes.
While still offering good
Absolutely.
indigent defense to our community.
Absolutely.
Steve, you sent out, I think, the letter from CCAO. Do you want to comment on it now or in discussion?
Oh, I think a discussion, yeah.
Okay, all right,
separately, yeah.
okay. Very good. Roll call?
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes,
Hudson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, we have Jeremy Cinco, our sanitary engineer. So congratulations, you're no longer the interim.
Yep.
I appreciate that and for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I have one resolution here for your consideration, and it's authorizing a 1-year extension for the transportation, disposal, recycling, and technical assistance services associated with a permanent household hazardous waste collection program for the Medina County Solid Waste District.
Move to approve.
second?
Got a motion, a second. Any questions? Jeremy, are the rates that are in here consistent with what they were all last year?
A couple cent changes in most cases per pound, so yeah, they're pretty much the same.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes,
Yes.
Hudson?
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And congratulations again.
Thanks again.
Congratulations.
Next up, we have Shannon Ryan, our transit director.
Good morning.
Good morning, Shannon.
I have one resolution for your consideration, the approval of the 2021 Civil Rights Plan for Medina County Public Transit. This is an update to our current plan, updating contacts with the FTA.
Move to approve the resolution.
second?
Any questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes,
Hudson?
Yes. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
I also, instead of doing this in discussion, I'll mention it now. Medina County Transit put out this little brochure that talks about connecting our transit system with transit systems in Cleveland and over in Akron, Summit County. And I should say Cuyahoga County and Summit County. And just well done. I think
Thank
it's a
you.
great service to offer, and I think the brochure is very well done. So
I'll have some
thank
more
you.
information to share next week in my monthly report.
Great.
Okay?
All right, thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Next, we have Debbie Kiley, Job and Family Services Director.
Good morning.
Good morning, Debbie.
3 resolutions for your consideration. Assign authority to the Director of Medina County Job and Family Services to serve as the board's designee with authority to request and sign inter-county adjustment agreements on behalf of Medina County. This is for the time period January 19th, 2021 through December 31st, also of 2021. The next is an authorization for an agreement between Medina County Job and Family Services and Monitoring Concepts. They're going to install new security cameras throughout the location of 232 Northland Drive for a cost of $12,425. And lastly, just a resolution to update our current gift card and voucher policy for Medina County Job and Family Services.
Move to approve the 3 resolutions.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank
It
you,
was
Debbie.
nice to
Thank you.
see you, Debbie.
Yes, you too.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, that concludes our resolutions for the morning. We have a couple department updates. First is Richard Nelson, our Chief Building Official. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Richard.
You've already received copies, I think, of our report, and there's some extra paper copies there for anybody that is interested. First page is just showing mostly that we're pretty busy this last December. It was up quite a bit from last year December numbers. Second page is year to date. And interestingly, the new homes were up 3.8%, even with the bad COVID stuff going on. Our overall revenues were down less than 1%. So it ended up being okay. Third page shows a pretty high skewed number for average cost of homes in December. There was several big homes started and being built in December, so it skewed that number amazingly. The number right below it, the 389,000 is average for new homes, which is still a pretty high number. And the following pages are minutia and data for the different townships. And recently, of course, you know, we switched systems. We switched from that Llama system to our PCS system that we had used over the years. That changed January 1 or after the new year. It's going okay. It's not going great, but it's working out, and we continue to keep making it better. The pay online thing is more difficult for Alicia to do the reporting, but it's nice that people can pay online with credit card or an e-check, which is a pretty great thing, but it makes it more difficult for Alicia to do her reporting. But overall, it's working out okay, and we're continuing to try to finish up jobs that were already in Llama. We're going to have that for a few more months before it totally shuts down. And anything that's remaining will just transfer into PCS, as we've already done with quite a few jobs. We are transferring the data into PCS so that we can be on one system here in a couple of months.
Is the private sector happy with the change?
They're okay with it, but like I say, with some of the bugs and some of the unforeseen difficulty, because so they're even struggling a little bit because when we used PCS 2 years ago, we were on paper. We had files. A lot of our documents were kept in a job file on a shelf. And they all came into the counter and were given paper copies of inspection lists and their permit and receipts. And that's all electronic now. So it's a change, kind of a learning curve, a couple of gotchas that we weren't prepared for. But overall, they're gonna be good with it. A lot of them are very happy already. The ones that come into the counter are very happy.
And turnaround times are much better than last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, residential's 3 days. Commercial is 2 weeks, essentially 2 to 3. Although sadly, I just this morning discovered a job that had been revised and re-entered to us 2 months ago that I just discovered. It's pretty amazing. But they're moving on, and it's not a problem, but it's still shocking that we would find something from 2 months ago. That's not good. And that's some of the things that we struggled with that llama system. That doesn't mean it can't happen in PCS, but it should happen far less. Far less.
For the one that was, I guess, 2 months prior, was the contractor informed, or had the contractor had communication with the department concerned why it took
That's
so
the
long?
thing. The ball was in our court. They had we had given them a non-conformance approval, partial approval, if you will. They responded 3 days later, and then we didn't know it or hadn't responded back, hadn't re-reviewed it. Of course, they're moving on.
Right,
In fact,
right.
they're almost done. That's how it got discovered this morning, because the inspector come to me and said, "Hey, they're scheduled a final inspection tomorrow, but they don't have full approval yet." So when I look into it, it's like, well, they re-entered new drawings 3 days after I gave them comments on the first set of drawings. So, but they're moving on, but it's not a good thing. Now, had somebody on that job been in big need for my approval or action,
Right.
they'd have called. Certainly, they would have called,
Okay, good.
and it would have been discovered much earlier.
So at this point, you need to determine whether they've met
Yes.
the revised
Yes,
comments
correct.
and corrections. Okay.
Pretty much all I have.
Well, it amazes me that in a year where we had such economic uncertainty with COVID and everything
With all
else,
the building.
that we had almost $250 million in construction in Medina County, as compared to $203 million the year
prior year,
before.
yeah.
And the average price of the houses just blows my mind away. I mean, we're bumping $400,000 for the average price of a new house in Medina County.
Yes, yes.
And just, I don't know what it was, but a year or 2 years ago, it was in the low 300s. And I can remember when it was under 3.
And to see that much commercial
Mm-hmm.
going on. Yeah. Wow.
So, well, thank you, Richard.
Thank you so
We
much,
appreciate
Richard.
that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next update is from Bethany Detmer from our Economic Development.
And she might be able to explain all that commercial development.
Yeah?
Well, I'm going to tell you, stay tuned, because
Yeah.
we're still working on finalizing all the data from our own economic development efforts in 2020. And I think, obviously there were very challenging circumstances, but as you just heard, there was still a very healthy amount of capital investments going on in Medina County last year. I think just in looking at the projects we were involved in, I think we're going to see over $150 million in industrial and commercial and capital investments. You'll be able to hear about those results if you'd like to join us for our member meeting this Thursday, where I'll be presenting a State of Business in Medina County report. So that'll be our program, and it will be online, so you're certainly welcome to join that. I think in general, we're going to look back on 2020 with the realization that not everything was bad. We've seen a lot of good things result from the challenges that we faced, including increased levels of collaboration. I think businesses are becoming more entrepreneurial and creative, and we've had our government leaders tuning in even more closely to the needs of our local communities. And I'm proud of our own economic development team's effort and teamwork. It's resulted in new thinking about incentives and support for a broader variety of companies that call Medina County home. In looking at our level of business expansion activity in the pipeline for this year, we're confident that we'll have a number of new projects come to fruition early in 2021, and that we will start the new year with a healthy level of planned new capital investments. I also wanted to give you a few updates on some current initiatives. Beginning last December, our education committee, which also serves as the Education Service Center's Business Advisory Council, also the Business Advisory Council for 5 of our school districts, we have planned a series of virtual career fairs that we are organizing in collaboration with the Ohio Means Jobs Medina County office. This is in an effort to build our pipeline of future workers who will stay right here in Medina County. Those programs invite middle school and high school students from all 7 school districts and 2 vocational programs to log in, so it's a virtual event, log in and talk with companies and learn about careers in different fields. December's career fair focused on financial services and accounting. For, I think, a first time, we had a respectable number of students, about 22, interact with representatives of 10 companies. It was a good test drive of the platform, and we're certainly grateful to Ohio Means Jobs for use of that program. So our upcoming career fairs will involve manufacturing, construction, information technology, among other industries. The next career fair will focus on engineering, and it's scheduled for Thursday, January 28th. I guess that's next week. It'll be at from 6 to 8 p.m. We would love to have parents join their students and learn what it takes to get into all kinds of different engineering careers like biomedical or chemical, electrical, mechanical, civil, all of those types of engineering. February 4th will be our manufacturing career fair. Another area of focus this year as we look ahead will be the expansion of the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. That's a program that enables right now just companies who own commercial or industrial property to use that program and put it on their tax rolls in order to make energy efficiency investments in their properties. Back in 2019, with the great support of Medina County, we formed the Medina County Energy Improvement District here in the city of Medina. And we've been trying to expand that, as Steve Hambley well knows. Up until late last year, it was very difficult to expand that territory of that district to other jurisdictions throughout Medina County because of Ohio Revised Code regulations. So we've been working with our then Representative Steve Hambley on an amendment to House Bill 444, which would allow for expansion of this program to non-contiguous jurisdictions. I'm very pleased to report that in the last session, probably the last hour of the Ohio legislature in December, the bill was approved by the Senate, the House concurred, and then the governor signed that just a few days ago. So we're certainly wanting to get the word out about that program and what it can do for companies wanting to make creative forms of capital investments in energy efficiencies. The other item that I wanted to mention is the 2021.
Can I ask a question about that before you go
Sure,
on?
sure.
Is that available only to for-profit companies, or is it available to nonprofits as well?
Any commercial property owner.
Okay.
So for-profit, nonprofit,
Got
it would all be available.
Okay.
They're working right now to expand to residential property owners, but we're still not quite on board with that yet, but we're hoping that'll be one of the programs we can roll out if
Provided
not this year.
they're paying property taxes.
Correct.
I'll point that
You
out.
have to, well, actually,
So actually, if they
actually,
didn't pay property, if they got into this program, couldn't they finance it that way?
I don't know.
we were able to, the county itself borrowed money.
Right,
They did
yeah,
borrow
right.
money from the Toledo Port Authority, and typically you don't pay property taxes, but
We
this
could, yeah.
loan was put on your tax rolls so that you did have to pay that back. I mean, you're paying yourself back. You're doing it anyway. But it was a way for us, it was a structure for us to get it going. So, as long as you have a piece of property
Yeah.
that has tax record, then you can use the program
Okay, all right.
to this point. So as I said, the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is the 2021 annual meeting of Medina County Economic Development Corporation. This will be held in the morning as a virtual program as opposed to the dinner that we usually like to have, get together in person. We dearly hope we'll be able to return to that in 2022. But this year's event will take place on Thursday, February 18th at 8 a.m. We're going to provide a brief 2020 year in review, and the keynote speaker is our favorite economist, Dr. Ned Hill of the Ohio State University. I know, Steve, you've done a lot of work with him down in Columbus. Don't get scared by the title of his program, but it's this: What's up with the economy? The COVID depression is over. The COVID recession is here. Uncertainty rules. Vaccine news triggers optimism.
So, despite the
Yeah,
title, I
interesting.
think you'll find the event both entertaining and informative. So hopefully you all will be able to join us. And that's my report.
Very nice to see you.
Do you want to make a comment on fiber to the home?
Not yet, Bill.
Okay, all right.
Our PR
Sorry.
team's still working on it.
Got it, all right.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Bethany. Richard, I have a question for you. The figures that you have given us include all of the permits that have been processed through your office. But the city of Brunswick and the city of Wadsworth, and this is a question, not a statement, and the city of Medina have their own permitting process that doesn't go through the
Correct.
Medina County Building Department.
Correct.
So when we look at these numbers, they're actually, could be significantly higher.
Oh, yeah.
When you include everything that's gone on in the various cities.
Right. And then Wadsworth, we do the commercial, so they're reported. But
Okay.
They do their own residential.
Yeah, and I think they've had a fair amount of development residentially in Wadsworth.
Yeah, they have some, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they have quite a bit, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Brunswick has Chick-fil-A.
They got one, and isn't there, do you have permits for the one that I hear is going in on North Court Street?
That would be Medina City.
City, yeah.
City, okay, all right, so there you have it, yeah. There's two of them going in, so.
I heard Wadsworth's getting one as well.
Oh, I
Really?
hadn't- I hadn't
Potential.
heard
I did not
that.
There's
hear
some
that.
discussion that, yeah, takes a while to get the franchise approval, as I understand it, yeah.
Well, be a welcome addition to our fast food variety here in Medina County.
Indeed.
Okay, so could I have a motion to go into executive session to consider the employment of a public
Yes.
employee?
Yeah, move to go into executive session after discussion to consider the employment of a public employee.
Thank you, Steve.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes. So we will move into discussion session. Steve, you want to start off?
Yeah, I had asked that to just be included in the discussion. There is, we had the CCAO board meeting last Friday, and I'm sure you received the update they sent Friday as well as I think even this morning. There's some update that the indigent defense reimbursement funding is the #1 funding priority for the budget cycle coming from the CCAO, as well as the #2 is actually construction, jail construction costs. So those are the two top priorities I think that we can identify very well with. And there is, I provided you, there's a bullet outline of that. Tim Bubb, the president of CCAO, sent a letter to DeWine. Right now is the time to push the administration as they develop the executive part of the budget to make sure that they include that. There is a history, and they provide that in that House Bill 166 last General Assembly, where the governor, did increase more the reimbursement for indigent defense than what Kasich and prior General Assemblies had. The House, through our amendment process, we added an additional $35 million to that to hopefully get it up closer to 100% than, of course, historically been what it was. Now I think we're around 70%. I think some of it has to do because of COVID. There was a reduction of 10% across the board for all sorts of priority programs as well as some other things. But the push is to continue to push for total reimbursement from the state level. I would like to encourage us, if it would be possible, to, at the very minimum, do a letter, but I think a resolution would be fitting, asking the governor or pleading with the governor for that, that to be.
We should do both.
Well,
Yeah.
to be that as well as copies to go to the General Assembly, both
Absolutely.
Sharon Ray, Darrell Kick, and of course Mark Romanchuk, state senator, advocating obviously that this is a constitutional obligation of the state. We should be fully reimbursed for that. One of the biggest,
Or alternatively, if the
Yes.
state wants to take it over and handle it themselves,
I'd
I'd be okay
say
with that
that's
too.
unlikely.
I understand.
It's going to be, but it's at least it's doable to get
Yes.
to increase that beyond what that total. And we know that's a lot of large dollars. I will say anecdotally, I mentioned this last week in the discussion. We were talking about the Public Defender's Office. That additional $35 million that we were able to get, that the General Assembly, the House, we put in through an amendment process. The biggest pushback I had in getting that amendment, that additional $35 million, was from not only legislators unaware of how the indigent defense works, but also even former commissioners as state representative said, well, they wanted the county to have some skin in the game and provide that. Otherwise, they'll never, ever be efficient enough. And I think what we demonstrated today is, no, we are going to be talking about efficiency and cost, and obviously still being provide that that public defender for those that are indigent, as they're constitutionally, constitutionally eligible for. But I think what we are demonstrating in this county that indeed we are going to be cost. Even if the state's going to be paying most of the cost, even if the state pays 100%, we're going to still advocate for efficiency and effectiveness as well as meeting the constitutional obligations of the state. But I think that we ought to be taking some action. I would request that. When it gets into the House, we'll see what in the next couple of months, what the governor proposes, and we may have to bump it up even more what the governor wants to do. But the first step is to get it into the governor's budget. We know anytime the governor does a budget, what happens is anything you can add on to what he has, it's a little bit tougher because you have to take money away from somebody else. He's got a fixed pie, a certain amount, unless you increase the pie. As it usually works out, the legislature does find more money, and you can increase the size of the pie. But at this point, the first step is getting it on the governor's list. You got to give a lot of praise to Governor DeWine last General Assembly for recognizing this, given his, I'll just say, his prosecutorial experiences. He understood the necessity of this, as well as he recognized, and obviously there was a lot of push from the County Commissioners Association and all the counties, as well as you all, that we needed to get that money, and I think we ought to continue pushing. So I'd recommend if we could develop a resolution for next week and then get that out to the governor and the legislators.
You okay with the county?
Yeah, absolutely.
Super, good.
And Steve, wasn't there something in the last budget, the capital budget for jails?
Yes, there was. Yes, it was. And
Because I know we submitted something here in
Yep.
Medina.
And I think Medina County got 100,000 in the capital budget for the jail. But I think what part of that too was also creation of a continuing fund of I think it was 50 million statewide to continue looking at the future construction projects. I think our advocacy and the CCO will keep in tune with this as how we want to push that forward. But that is our second ask, is to also to continue funding that the jail construction costs. As we know, how the legislature changes the laws impacts how many of, I'll just say, our offenders are going to remain in our jail and how many are going to go to the state prisons. And over the past, they've reclassified several times that a lot of the defenders, or basically those that have been offenders and those convicted of certain crimes, have stayed within our jail system. And so that impacts what they do. And I think that's why I think that is a good argument for the state taking much more of a role of providing that kind of funding. Now, fortunately, we did get a good report from the inspector, I guess, that came out, annual jail inspection. We're doing well. We're, out of a 256 capacity, we have 117 incarcerated, so that's good news.
But that is during COVID.
Yes, yeah, I
And prior to
understand.
COVID, we were at
Yeah.
capacity and occasionally sending inmates
It's
up
elsewhere.
to other
Yep.
counties and paying a fee for that. So,
Right, yeah.
and I think in the proposal that was submitted
Mhm.
through CCAO for
Mhm.
Medina County, there was the concept of adding another pot on.
Mhm.
Now, again, things have changed with COVID, but I suspect that once we're through this,
Yeah.
things will elevate again.
Well, I know
And the
that.
county's growing, so.
Yes, well, and they have developed a list and criteria, and I think those are the things we'll have to be mindful of, but it starts with coming up with the money to fund it.
Right.
And at this point, I think our priority as being indigent defense is one that's really cash in. And the other long-term is, I absolutely agree that we ought to be looking
Yeah.
and continuing to push that. So, but I think there's gonna be a different timing for that
So
second
that
part
might
of
go
it.
in capital budget the following year.
Could very well be, but I think we'll see what program they're gonna push in the operating budget portion of that as well, so. But,
Thank you. Thank
Sure.
you. Anything else?
no, I don't have anything
Colin,
else.
do you have anything?
We had our organizational meeting for McDack, and so the decision was kind of made that instead of an official subcommittee to evaluate the grants, once they're submitted from each entity, Amy and one of the assistant prosecutors will review them for eligibility based on the requirements for the levy language. So then when we have our meeting to decide, you know, the pie and who gets what, we will at least not have to have a lengthy discussion on which one's qualified. So that will be done in advance, and that's in lieu of a, you know, specific subcommittee.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Go to Scott next.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things. I want to kind of give you an update on last year's, the finances. We ended the year with a $7.4 million fund balance, which is the highest it's been. It's $918,000 greater than it was in 2019. Our sales tax, believe it or not, we ended up $700,000. Now, keep in mind that at the end of July, we were only up $50,000. The first 3 months, we did really well, and then once the COVID hit, those revenues dropped significantly. So financially, last year we did well. One of the resolutions that Amy presented today actually is transferring $1 million into our capital improvement fund. There are some capital improvements we need to do to some parking lots, specifically the jail and the Human Service Center. So we're able to pay cash for that and not have to issue bonds. So last year, despite COVID, we did well.
So Scott, you mentioned a $700,000 figure for sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So we were up over the prior year by $700,000 in
Yes.
sales tax?
Yeah, and that realistically is really 6 months worth of 5 to 6 months of sales tax. So had that been, you know, had we had April, May, June, July without COVID, we probably would have been up, you know, over $1 million in sales tax.
But even in those months, if I remember right, our sales tax was up. I mean, it may not have been up much, but it was, correct me if I'm wrong, there was not a month that we were below the prior year in sales tax.
Yes.
People
Yeah.
were doing a lot of home improvements.
Yeah.
Waiting
May,
Just
lines
buying
at
stuff
Home
online.
Depot for
wondering-
paint and.
I want to say May, June, and July we were less than 2020
Auto
or
sales.
2019.
Auto sales play any role in that one?
Yes, I think auto sales. I think those were up. I think people didn't go on vacation this year, so they were buying cars
Cars
and
and
they were
fixing up
doing
the
home
home.
improvements,
Yeah,
and you know, they were buying online, and that's one of the things that helped also was, you know, the sales tax now is being collected for online purchases, where in 2019 I
Right.
think that started in September.
Late in the
Right.
year.
We didn't make
So
an
late in the
adjustment.
year. So sales tax, so that definitely helped also. And property tax, because of the reevaluation, we were up about $1.4 million in property tax too. So it was definitely a good year. So the other thing I wanted to discuss was, I know that being online for the meetings, I know that Medina City has a pretty nice setup, and we'd like to kind of move to that. So we contacted Mayor Hanwell. We talked to Mayor Hanwell. I talked to Medina TV last week, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to bring Medina TV in to actually run the meetings and set up the same way that Medina City is set up, so people have access, they make comments. In Medina TV, so that we probably have to invest about $2,500 in additional equipment, and then we would just cover the cost of their salary for the time that they're here. So if they're here for 3 hours, we pay 3 hours times whatever their
And
hourly
that's where we
rate
could
is.
have that hybrid system that Steve talked about where,
Yes.
One of us
We
is
could-
remote and
right, okay.
Yes.
members here. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So would we also have a screen or something back there that we could see the person?
Somewhere in the room
Okay.
that you'll be
All right.
able to see.
Okay,
Super.
yeah,
Wave of the future.
yeah. They have a
Yeah.
jumbotron right back there.
And you talk about the audience participation, be able to make comment other than on Facebook, or what was the?
I believe so, because
anticipation
they're able to do that at the city. So how they make comment at the city. I know there's several city meetings I've been to. They've been able to pull comments up, and then, you know, they've responded to some of those comments.
there? Got it.
So Medina TV, they're putting together the proposal, they're putting together the equipment that we need. They said we would also probably need to set up some kind of an escrow account and put like $500, $700 away each year to purchase new equipment as technology changes. But that's something that we're looking at, something that we're moving forward towards.
So I mean, that's not an escrow, it's just a budget line,
Just-
right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'd probably probably like a fund, set up a fund, and
Yeah.
then just put money in there kind of as a reserve.
Almost
so
like a
that-
technology fund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Got it.
So,
I think that
Agreed.
will be
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, you know, and if we create a technology fund, we probably ought to put more money into it so that we can have a sinking fund to replace technology as we need to for computers and servers and other things that the county is incurring.
right. Yeah, we're looking at IT this year, so that's,
Right.
when we look at IT, we'll look at all of the, we'll look at our staffing and look at technology, and that's a great idea to set up a fund for that.
Mhm.
So, that's all I
Good.
had.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Jeremy, anything else?
Yeah, I just got two things, real quick. One. Could you go to the mic? Oh, yeah, I can do that, no problem. I just got two things. One, we sent out one of the residents on Ryan Road in the city of Medina up by Wagon Trail. There's like 4 properties that were still on septic. They just didn't have any access to sanitary sewers, so one of the residents asked us if we could look into extending sewers. So we sent letters out to that resident and then the 3 neighboring residents asking if they would like to participate in an assessed sanitary sewer extension where we could put the cost of the project and the connection to their septic system on their property taxes over 20 years. We just got responses from all 4 properties and they were all a go for it.
Oh,
So
Good.
usually there's 1 or 2 property owners that don't want it, but in this situation everyone did. So we'll probably like to present a resolution next week just to kind of get us in that assessment, get that process going. So just wanted to bring you up to date on that.
So Jeremy, were those properties in the township when they were built?
I don't.
And then subsequently annexed in?
They may have based on the water, but these properties sit, I'm going to say 300, 200 feet off the road, and there was no sewer in Ryan Road just due to topography there. But when they built a subdivision just to the north of their property, it went all the way in a cul-de-sac, and we actually had a sewer easement between a couple homes that butts up on the northern property of those 4 lots. So,
Okay. Interesting.
so
How old are their systems?
that I have to look into.
Okay, I just wonder if they're old enough that they're looking at the cost.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
replace them, given the increased restrictions.
They
on site.
all 4 would have to provide us sewer easements, which they were all willing to do.
Good,
And
good.
with it being in the backyards and stuff, the cost will be a little bit less due to
Sure.
with existing utilities not there. So,
Right.
Good.
and then the other thing, I did talk to rural Lorraine on Thursday afternoon. I just went up there to meet with them and just to introduce myself. And I did talk to them about that bulk water rate that we had previously talked about.
Right.
Their rates they have one billing rate, so they wouldn't charge customers in Medina any different than any of their other customers. So, in just discussion, I just mentioned that we were one of those. That was one of the concerns, and they said for 2021's budget that they did put in an extra some other money aside for a potential rate increase. So they are kind of planning for that, but I told them nothing was that we were just evaluating at this time. So
Yeah, I talked to Jeremy about my concern about bumping up the bulk rate with those people that feed into the system that are our residents and taxpayers would have to see an increase. That they would just try to transfer that cost onto them. It looks like their system,
Yep.
that they're not going to be jacking up their costs. So
correct, it's customer wide, not just specific to that area. So
good to know that there would be no retribution against the locals because we increased the costs.
Yeah,
So,
right.
good.
but that was
All right.
it. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. Bethany, anything else? Richard? Rhonda? I just have one thing. I attended the workshop on the electric vehicle charging stations. I don't know if either of you sat in on that.
No, we
No,
still
I
had
had
our board.
conflicting meeting and he had CCAO.
And I had CCO
yeah.
board, yeah, we went over to
Okay,
ours.
so it
Yeah.
is, they're gonna be sending out more information.
They sent us an email where we could view the
The
Okay,
slides,
good.
yes,
Yes.
they sent that out, but they're going to be asking for locations and other information by, I think they wanted a response by the end of February.
That's pretty fast.
I thought so too.
Wow,
But I
yeah.
think this is more of an indication of interest and not necessarily a firm commitment. But, it's something that we may want to look at for maybe some of our facilities. I think it's something that we also should talk to the cities about. Maybe they would be interested in having a location. But there weren't a lot of dots in Medina County that were prospective locations for it. so.
Interesting.
Are they, I guess yeah, I'd have to take a look and see. I'm interested to see what the criteria would be for. Now, this is a pot of money that's out there to help subsidize putting those in, correct?
Exactly.
And so the question comes down to is well, how do we geographically distribute it in terms of electric vehicle uses?
Yeah.
There's a lot of communities, you're not gonna see a lot of electric vehicles. It's just not, because of the higher cost and, just the demographics. So that's why I kinda wonder what communities would be more likely to have electric vehicles, and I just,
Well, that's what
Yeah.
they looked at.
oh, they did,
So
okay.
in their
Yeah.
heat maps, they
Yeah.
kind of pinpointed those areas
Oh,
where
okay, I'd be curious to
where
see that.
they projected that there would be higher incidence of electric vehicles. The interesting thing, and
Yeah.
I would want to confirm this, but they said, I asked the question, how many registered cars are there in the
Right.
5-county geographic area?
Yeah.
And I want to say that it was 1.3 million cars. And it may be, but then,
Yeah.
and then I asked the question, well, by 2030, how many vehicles do you project are going to be electric vehicles, plug-in electric vehicles?
Mhm.
And they said 30,000. And when you do the math on it, it's a very tiny percentage.
Right.
And they wanna, I think they have like $3 million in this grant.
Yeah.
So you're gonna spend $3 million today to service 30,000 vehicles, 10 years in the future. And I questioned the validity
Wow.
of the investment.
Now, the source
analysis
of this
there.
funding is federal funding,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Solely federal, none of the state funds. Because
Yeah.
I know we put an additional fee for electric vehicles.
On registrations.
On
yeah.
registrations, and that's how they're able to track as to where they're at, where they're
Yeah.
located, licensed. So, just what I kind of wonder is, want to provide at least some money back to individuals that are paying an additional fee, to at least give them the convenience of having it.
So what are we gonna do about
charged.
getting them an answer before the end of February?
Well, I want to see the packet of material that
Okay.
they send in,
Yeah,
and then we'll have to
okay.
work through it.
Interesting.
And, yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I learned, because I didn't know the answer to this question, is if you can have a charging station that the user has to put a credit card in.
That's right, yeah.
So they actually pay for
Yeah.
the power.
That's right.
It's not the site that pays for the power.
I would think that there'd
It's
be
the
very
user.
few sites that wanna pay for
Well,
the
you
power.
know, you see some of them, I've seen them pop up at Walmarts and other
What?
places.
And there's no charge?
I don't know, because I've never tried to use one
Oh.
before.
Well, down at, I have a condo down in Gahanna, down in Columbus area, that's required, and it's over by Easton, and I can tell you over by Easton and within Gahanna itself, there's a number of locations that have these. Now, they're close to New Albany, which is a very wealthy community. There's a lot more of the electric vehicles there, and so they end up around the commercial areas is where they put these electric recharge stations, rather than where they reside, it's where they go shop. So maybe that is something we ought to be looking at, as to where people are actually, their destinations are gonna be,
Right.
as opposed to where they live. Because when they live, they'll already have it set up. It's where they go, whether they're at work or they're out shopping, and they do pay. In those circumstances, they do pay. Basically, the property owner just provides that as a part of a service.
Right.
To help recharge. So maybe that's something we ought to be looking at, is what those commercial destinations are, and that's part of the promotion of the commercial destination, is we have those that are, electric vehicles can come here and shop or
charge,
whatever.
right.
So I think that's what we ought to be talking about. Maybe the new Menards, I don't know, maybe that
Or near Chick-fil-A.
Or Chick-fil-A.
yeah.
Well,
Shannon?
We did have a recent survey about transit vehicles that you shared with me, Bill, and I took, how far in advance are you looking? They're $200,000 for a transit vehicle
Yeah.
of our size compared to 75 of ours. The cost of the vehicle, we're looking 25, 26, and most transits around the area, except for Columbus and the big 3 Cs, they're not even thinking about it
Right.
for the next 5 to 7 years. So
Yeah.
I think the cost of the vehicle is what is gonna
Right.
deter it away from, because even the charging stations, I think you have to look at the cost of the vehicle first before actually gonna purchase it.
But the costs are coming down and fairly quickly. I heard a statistic that for a typical combustion engine vehicle, there's like 35,000 parts that go into creating that vehicle. For an electric vehicle, it's about 17,000. So when you think
Interesting.
about it, just
Yeah.
from the complexity
Yeah.
of the vehicles and building them, it's
So a
much
volume
less
thing, okay.
Yeah.
for an electric vehicle. And as you
But
get
they-
more and more of them and they scale up production, the costs are gonna come down.
And also it's 120 mile an hour, 120 mile radius that you get, or miles you get with the charge. than the vehicles were. I don't know what the cars are right now, but I don't know if they're in the 100 range or not, or even higher, but the cell, how long it takes to charge, how far you can go is another issue with people.
Well, I know down Columbus, they put like a 3-hour limit
So
on
it
some
is.
of those stations, yeah. Interesting.
Kind of like parking here in the city of Medina.
Kind of like, yeah.
So anyhow, more information
sure.
to follow
All right,
on
thanks.
the charging stations. And that's all I have. We're going to go into executive session now. We will come out of executive session and retire our general session when we're done.
Thank you.
We on? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Hambley?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yeah.
Hudson?
Yes. Have a great week. One and all.
Thank you.